Donald Trump's defense team, trying to find ways to create reasonable doubt. Their lead attorney, Todd Blanche, boiled it down as this: Trump's innocent. He didn't commit any crimes, and the DA hasn't met their burden of proof, period. And that's almost boilerplate. You could get that out of the AI, ChatGPT, but they did go into more details, arguing nothing happened. But if something did happen, Michael Cohen did it, that the hush money scheme was basically done somehow without Trump's knowledge, or at least with the key criminal intent, and whatever might have happened. Also, the legal defense here, they argued it's not against the law. We've shown you that over the course of the trial, and that was, again, what they were trying to push today. It was about 3 hours that the defense went. We should note that is already less than the prosecution. And at times it was scattered. The New York Times reported Blanche used sports metaphors in the top 10 list to push for Trump's innocence and tried to undercut the falsified business records by simply asserting, quote, "There is no falsification of business records, period." Now, I can tell you right there, that is what is called conclusory, which is a bad thing in the law. You don't want to just say words or proclaim innocence. That's not even technically much of an argument, although it's within the rules of what they can say. What you need to give a jury here at the ending, if you're the defense, are pieces of evidence, testimony, or questions, which might not be as sturdy as evidence, that they might hold on to that create this reasonable doubt that we talk about, right? So Blanche also did some of that. They talk about this catch and kill scheme, and he argued, this is an argument, it may not be 100% true, there was actually nothing unusual about that whole sordid practice. Now, this case isn't about an alleged election crime, and multiple witnesses said Trump was concerned about this for campaign reasons, the Access Hollywood tape, all that stuff you probably remember. So here's what the Trump lawyer said today. The tape here is being set up in this trial to be something that it's not. It wasn't a referendum on views on Trump. It's not a referendum on the ballot box. Trump addressed the tape, he said, in a video that was released to the public. He addressed it in a debate a couple days later. He never thought it was going to cost him the campaign. It was not a doomsday event, as you see there. Now, that is a type of interpretation. That is fair game. We heard from witnesses, including around Donald Trump, including Hope Hicks and Michael Cohen, that this was a kind of doomsday event, that they were literally talking at the RNC about kicking him off the ballot. But this is, again, where the reasonable doubt comes in. If you can get one or two jurors who might not be as versed in politics as some people to think, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a big deal, it was a long time ago, and didn't he become president anyway? They might have reasonable doubt as to whether this was a campaign motivation. Then you have the star witness, Michael Cohen. I mentioned this early in the broadcast. There he was walking around. They tried to undermine everything Cohen said in his credibility. They told jurors that he was repeatedly lying under oath. He lies to his family. At one point, they argued he's like the MVP of liars. He lied to you, make no mistake. And if you've heard about GOATs in sports or music, that is for the acronym greatest of all time, well, they slipped in another letter. Michael Cohen is the GLOAT, Trump's lawyer claimed. He's literally the greatest liar of all time. A twist on the Michael Jordan reference. Now, I talked about chutzpah, a reference from the prosecutors earlier this hour. Whether GLOAT is a great pop culture reference or not, that's not the question. Question is, do those kind of things, which are frankly gimmicks, do they resonate with one or two jurors who, when they're debating this in the days ahead, say, hey, isn't he the GLOAT? Isn't he a liar? Don't we all agree on that? And so these are the things they're trying to do to poke holes. The defense also went after Cohen for recording his own former boss. You remember that evidence.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David. I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
don't pay the kid.
No.
Now that is just a damning piece of evidence. It was damning when it came out. It was damning when different Trump people tried to spin it. It's been damning in this case. So what does it mean to have the defense try to deal with this in closing? What can they even really claim? I'm going to show you. Quote, Mr. Cohen told you he thought the President Trump was referring to green, which makes it more sinister. Green, cold, hard cash. That was Mr. Cohen lying to you, painting a picture that fits his narrative, not the truth. Now, here's the point there. They are trying to get the jury to get fixated or even confused about what that tape means. Because the point there isn't just the cash part, although that could make it worse if that is interpreted as Trump trying to hide this. Could make it worse. But the real point is they're trying to get people to think about anything other than what's on the tape, which is Trump knew about it at the time. Remember, if Michael Cohen went rogue and did all this stuff himself, maybe Trump didn't know, he was busy on the campaign trail. No, they were talking about it. It's on tape. So what I'm telling you is not that this is the most accurate or fair rendering, but this is the defense. The defendant is entitled to their best legal defense, and they're trying to poke holes and say, oh, remember the tape, maybe it was manipulated, or maybe the cash thing was sinister, or maybe Cohen spun it. And it's like, forget spinning it. The tape is a valid, real piece of evidence that shows Trump knew then. But we won't be in with the jury when they're talking about this. Who knows what things they'll remember about it. As for the compensation, the lawyers say Cohen talked to every reporter that he could, pushing the fact that he was going to be the attorney to Mr. Trump and the payments were compensation to him, period, meaning he used to lie about it. Quote, he's biased and motivated to tell you a story that's not true. Now, there was another moment today that shows a kind of either lawlessness, desperation, whatever you want to call it. Trump's lawyers did something that not only is not allowed in this kind of summation, but actually they had been personally, specifically warned not to do by this judge. And that is try to blend two separate things. A lot of people are watching this case thinking, what if Trump ends up in jail? And as a citizen and a news viewer, you are free to think about that and ask about that. But in the fairness of our system, that is not supposed to be used before the jury, and it's certainly not supposed to be used by Trump's lawyers to kind of scare the jury and say, oh, no, he could go to jail forever. How unfair. So that's not allowed. In other words, the jury's only supposed to decide what happened. Did he do it? Not what the punishment would be, which in this case, in New York, would be meted out by the judge. And yet there they went, Trump's lawyer today, saying you cannot send someone to prison based on the words of Michael Cohen, the objection right out of the prosecutor's mouth. And that was a violation. So what does that mean? Well, they discussed it. The lawyers discussed it with the judge, and then the judge admonished and rebuked Trump's lawyer, saying it was outrageous. Someone who's been a prosecutor, as long as you have a defense attorney, as long as you have, referring to all of his history, it's simply not allowed. It's hard for me to imagine how that was accidental in any way. And I can tell you, because we were watching in court today, the judge later told the jury, not only is that stricken from the record, but you cannot discuss that in your deliberations. He basically told the jury that was a no-no, Trump lawyers were wrong, and you're only supposed to find the facts. And then he even said out loud, and this is important, especially with fairness, he said to the jury, this is a case where even a potential conviction might not result in prison. In other words, if you're thinking as a juror that it's so unfair that the former president might go to prison, stop thinking about that, it's not allowed, and don't worry about it, because he might not go to prison, but it's ultimately up to the judge. Now, the defense just has to find, as I've told you, one juror who has this reasonable doubt. This is the be-all, end-all.